Hello fans. Man United transfer news, Viktor Gyokeres price set as Harry Kane bargain deal emerges. Manchester United will be in the market for a striker come the summer, and Viktor Gyokeres is likely to be their prime target, with Sporting Lisbon braced for offers. Manchester United seem to be going from bad to worse, with injuries and form not going their way. The defeat to Crystal Palace on Sunday was bad enough, but it also included a serious injury to Lisandro Martinez, which will rule him out for months. After that, Ruben Amorim failed to land any deadline day signings, which was always set to be the case. It means those at Old Trafford will have to make do with what they've got as they aim to avoid surpassing last season's worst ever Premier League finish. The lack of a prolific frontman has long been cited as an issue, whilst Amorim is largely working without any natural wingbacks, although he did land the signing of Patrick Dorgu late in the window. We take a look at the transfer news coming out of Manchester ahead of what could be a defining summer. Gyokeres price tag. Sporting Lisbon's Viktor Gyokeres is likely to be top of United's shopping list as they look to reunite the frontman with Amorim. Gyokeres proved to be an inspired signing when he moved to Portugal and is now one of Europe's most prolific forwards. He scored a hat-trick against Manchester City several months ago, and according to iNews, the Lisbon outfit would be willing to part ways with their star striker for around £60 million. Sporting have shown that they will sell their top talent for the right price. Amorim saw a number of his best players leave during his tenure, and the club may yet see their former manager return for their prized asset. Kane's release clause. Harry Kane will have his release clause activated next January, which means a club could bring him back to England in a cut-price deal. The striker was heavily linked with a move to Manchester before he eventually opted to join Bayern. Luiz back to Manchester. Those on the red half of Manchester are interested in a move for Juventus midfielder Douglas Luiz. The 26-year-old has struggled for regular minutes in Turin since arriving from Aston Villa last summer and is now reviewing his options. Luiz was linked with City in the January window, the club where he used to play before moving to Villa, and the Daily Mail report that United are also admirers of the Brazilian, who was a standout when Villa finished in the top for last season. Juventus boss Thiago Motta has continued to give Luiz his public support, but internally there have been discussions about a potential exit. They couldn't achieve that last month and may try again in the summer. Manchester United give team news an update on Luke Shaw for Leicester City FA Cup tie. Patrick Dorgu and Aiden Heaven signed for Man United last week, and they play their fourth-round FA Cup tie on Friday at Old Trafford. Patrick Dorgu and Aiden Heaven are available to make their Manchester United debuts against Leicester City in the FA Cup fourth round on Friday. Dorgu, 20, joined United from Lex last week for a fee rising to £29 million, while the 18-year-old Heaven arrived from Arsenal for an undisclosed compensation fee. "We'll see," United head coach Ruben Amorim replied when asked if the duo could be involved. "You guys have to wait until tomorrow, but they are ready to play and are two more solutions in this moment." Lisandro Martinez has been ruled out for at least the remainder of the season with a cruciate ligament injury sustained in the second half of the 2-0 defeat to Crystal Palace on Sunday. Heaven is a fellow left-footed centre-back, but left-back Luke Shaw, who has also played on the left of a back three, has suffered a setback in his recovery from a hamstring injury. Shaw, 29, resumed full training last week but will not feature against Leicester. Amorim admitted the club have to be careful with a player who last started for United on February 18 last year. "Leica is a difficult situation," Amorim added. "He's going to be out for a while. We don't know the extent of the injury, but it's going to take time. Luke has one small issue in the difficult area from the last injury, so we try to be careful with Luke. Mason Mount and Johnny Evans are still out with muscle injuries." £52 million Man United offers eye-opening insight into Marcus Rashford exit and Ruben Amorim's coaching style. Man United summer signing Lainery Euro has lifted the lid on Ruben Amorim and the impact he has made at Old Trafford. Manchester United centre-back Lainery Euro has offered fans an intriguing insight into the management style of Ruben Amorim during a revealing interview with legendary defender Rio Ferdinand. Euro arrived at Old Trafford to great fanfare after 2 excellent seasons in the Lille first team and was the subject of interest from a number of Europe's top clubs such as Real Madrid and Liverpool before ultimately being convinced to join the Red Devils in a £52 million deal in what would ultimately prove to be the final transfer window of Erik ten Hag's 2.5-year stint in the dugout. The 19-year-old defender, who has been compared by former teammate Jose Font to Virgil van Dijk, never actually got to play under Ten Hag due to an ankle injury but is now back in the group with Amorim and has so far racked up 15 first-team appearances. He is yet to start a consistent run of games for the Old Trafford club, but is now expected to be one of the team's first-choice starters in Amorim's 3-4-2-1 formation in the weeks and months to come. Lanary Euro hints at what went wrong for Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford's 20-year association with his boyhood club looks almost certain to come to an end after he agreed to join Premier League rivals Aston Villa on a 6-month loan deal, which also includes a potential £40 million option to buy. Rashford was involved in a long-standing dispute with Ruben Amorim, which saw him get frozen out of the first-team plans in the run-up to a crucial game against arch-rivals Manchester City from the 12th of December to the 30th of January. He was only included in the United squad on one occasion in a 2-0 loss to Newcastle United where Amorim opted against bringing the forward off the bench despite a lackluster attacking display. While discussing Amorim's approach to training, Roy Keane reveals hilarious phone call with irate rugby fan after Man Utd red card. Roy Keane has never been shy to speak his mind, and the former Manchester United star has never been afraid to go out of his way to do so when criticised, even by a supporter. Roy Keane once called a fan after they wrote a letter to him criticising the former Manchester United captain for getting a red card. The former Republic of Ireland international had his colleagues in hysterics as detail how he was told he should be like ex-England rugby coach and captain Martin Johnson. With Johnson having been handed his marching orders around the same time for leaving Duncan McRae with broken ribs, Keane wasn't going to miss his opportunity to respond when the supporter had left their number. In conversation with Gary Neville, Wayne Rooney, Ian Wright, Jill Scott and rugby star Lawrence Dallaglio, Keane told the story on the overlap. "I got a letter from a rugby fan," Keane said. "I got sent off for United, and I got a letter, and I think the guy was living in Leicester. He was slagging me off, saying you're a disgrace, you're a thug, you should be more like the rugby players, right? He said that to me, and he mentioned Martin Johnson, but the guy left his number. A week earlier Martin Johnson got sent off for breaking somebody's ribs. So I rang this guy, and I said, you're sending me letters comparing me to rugby. Martin Johnson was sent off for breaking somebody's ribs. He was saying you should be more like him? I'll tell you what, you'd have gone very well in the rugby team, you'd have been fine, mate," Dallaglio responded. It's a chance to vent some of that anger out. It turns out it's not the first time Keane has offered his verdict on rugby. On a chance meeting between Manchester United and the British and Irish Lions in 2005 at the Vale Resort, near Cardiff, Keane was asked to give a prediction by a rugby star ahead of their tour of New Zealand. "I said to Roy, you could have. ND, we're playing a very good New Zealand side. I saw him chatting to a few of the boys and I'm just thinking I'd be nice to them. One of them asked the question and he said, yeah, you're going to get beat 3-0. This is before we'd even left to fly to New Zealand and I'm thinking he's right, but he could have said something different." Marcus Rashford tipped to cause dressing room issue at Aston Villa due to one reason. Marcus Rashford's sensational switch from Manchester United to Aston Villa has got tongues wagging, but there are concerns his sizable wage package could cause resentment. Marcus Rashford's move to Aston Villa proved to be one of the biggest talking points of the January transfer window. The forward has suffered a difficult time at Manchester United in recent months after being frozen out by Ruben Amorim. The 27-year-old completed a switch to Villa Park on loan for the rest of the season in the final days of the window, while Villa also have the option to make the move permanent for £40 million come the summer. It could prove a masterstroke for Villa manager Unai Emery if Rashford can rediscover his form, but it's also a deal which is fraught with risk. The Midlands club are reportedly set to cover a significant portion of Rashford's wages during the 6-month period. It follows claims they will pay a minimum of 75% of his £315,000 a week wages, potentially rising up to as much as 90%. Former United and Wrexham goalkeeper Ben Foster has now voiced fears that the hefty salary could cause resentment in the Villa dressing room if Rashford doesn't pull his weight, despite expressing hopes he will thrive with them. Rashford was previously criticised for his attitude in training by Amorim, and Foster is concerned his alleged unwillingness to put in the hard yards could resurface again. "I think he has lost the love, the hunger and the willingness to do that at Manchester United," Foster said on his Fozcast podcast. "The pressure at that football." Rashford has struggled for form at United since the 2022-23 season, when he scored 30 goals in 56 games. The United Academy graduate has managed just 15 in 67 appearances since then. Amorim raised eyebrows last month when he said he would rather put 63-year-old goalkeeper coach Jorge Vital on the bench over Rashford. Foster warned that the forward's claimed attitude problem will not wash with Emery at Villa and will need to change if he wants to return to his former glory. He said, "It's a massive opportunity for Rashford to rediscover his career, to kick-start it, to get going again, to start scoring some goals and playing football with a smile on his face. I think that's what everybody wants to see, but it's going to take some doing from him as well. It's going to be interesting to see whether he fits into that Aston Villa team the way that Emery likes to set his team up." Ruben Amorim sends parting message to Marcus Rashford and admits he's relieved he's gone. Ruben Amorim has seen Marcus Rashford head for pastures new at Aston Villa and admits he's glad his press conferences won't be dominated by the ex-Manchester United forward. Ruben Amorim admits he's relieved the saga regarding Marcus Rashford's future is over and he's thankful Unai Emery can now field questions about the Manchester United loanee. The forward left Old Trafford late in the transfer window and will spend the remainder of the season at Aston Villa, where they still have hopes of making the top four. Rashford hasn't played for United since mid-December, and it became clear he had no future in Manchester. Amorim dropped him for the Manchester derby win and never brought him back into the fold, as he publicly confessed the player needed to change if he wanted to be a success. Rashford's form had nosedived over the past 18 months, but his omission meant he was regularly a part of Amorim's press conferences. Now though, the United boss is glad he can talk about other matters with his focus on the play.